Dictionary defines life as... I didn't know if you'd catch that or not. Thank you. Donna and the kids are paying me way too much to come up here and read definitions from the Oxford Dictionary, so we're not going to go that route. So, like I said, I was Gus's nephew, and my mom, Maureen, and Donna are sisters. So our families were very close growing up, kind of by default, because Mom and Donna were close. Luckily, we were very fond of the Beck's because we spent a lot of time together, whether we wanted to or not. There have been some indications over the years that they felt the same way, so that was good. Glad everyone's here today. And as I look out around the crowd, I see that maybe we could have done a better job of enforcing the Tommy Bahama dress code. When I was leaving the house this morning, my daughter was home from school sick. She said, "Dad, whoa, 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 whoa." And I said, "What?" She said, you can't go dressed like that. Gus didn't want anyone to dress up. He just wanted everyone to be comfortable." I said, "Well, no, the comfort part is the more important part. This is fine." So she was okay with that. But it just kind of made me think, just about Gus. For his 60th birthday, we had a little get together. We played laser tag, a few different events, and we had this. We all had these like lime green T-shirts, and it was one size fits most. And as everyone was putting on the T-shirts, or everyone's kind of laughing at how everyone looks wearing these T-shirts because they weren't flattering T-shirts. And we get them on, and Gus looks at Dad, and everyone's kind of laughing about how terrible everyone looks at the T-shirt. Gus says, "George, a T-shirt actually, that looks good on you. That T-shirt actually makes you look better." And he looked at me and said, "Nick, that T-shirt makes you look worse." which was true. But the point was, like Gus, to him that was true, and he said it. And I thought that was great. I love that. So, just singing today, and every time to a few people who are going to speak or sing or whatever today, and just kind of like, Gus would just love that we're all here, and he'd be happy with kind of whatever happens. So, someone's telling a funny story, but it makes you emotional, that's fine. Someone's telling an emotional story, makes you think of something funny and you smile, or even if you laugh, that's fine too. And if you get to a solo for the third verse of a song you're performing, and you're having a tough time, that's fine too. You'd just be happy that everyone was here to share in all of this today. Before we start calling up a few of the speakers here, I just wanted to tell a little, not a story, but kind of my view of Gus as a nephew, and as I've known him, of course, my whole life, and your perspective on things changed a little bit as you get older yourself. You start having a family yourself, all these different things. You learn more about people. You start seeing how your parents or your aunts or uncles or whoever were people too. Like once you become the age they were when you were young, and they feel like you don't see kind of behind the veil of what they are to you as parents or whatever, and that's all good. But I have used the phrase before that Gus Beck was impossible. Now, like I've also said that 114 Upper Prince Street was probably the original reality show, a TV show, and I really believe that. And that, of course, was where where the Becks lived. Gus's family, most of Gus and Donna's family, for most of where I grew up. And a lot of stuff went on there that could have been on a TV show, and it was always a fun time. It was always great. But going back further than that, so tell you a little story. 1967, 68 range around there. Kensington's playing Colonel Grey for the basketball championship, the Island Provincial Championship. Kensington has a really good team, so Dad is on the team. And Kensington makes it out of the region to beat Summerside. They thought that was great. They get to play Colonel Grey, and Grey has this guy, and spoiler alert, the guy turns out to be Gus. Colonel Grey has this guy who's just carving them up. They've never seen anything like this before. He's getting to the rim, and if help comes to cut off the pad to the rim, he goes to the baseline for a reverse layup, which was sorcery to people from Kensington. Gus, as we know, probably was sending away for film reels of Pete Maravich to break it down. He probably loved to analyze sports, and he probably said, "Oh, Maravich, whoever, this reverse layup's unstoppable." So Kensington realized that if they can't slow this guy down, they're in big trouble. So they call timeout. they're in the huddle, and the coach says, does anyone know how to stop this guy? And Dad says, I know how to stop this guy. Now, as a little side note, Dad's a very, very good athlete, but he's even better at running over the top of people. So Dad says, I know how to stop this guy. Next time he comes to the baseline, I'm gonna be ready. I'm gonna run over the top of him. And he will not want to go to the baseline again. And we're gonna slow him down. And the coach didn't really typically coach that kind of basketball. He didn't endorse the plan, but he also didn't say, George, please don't do that. So the game carries on, and Dad's waiting for his chance, and he's on the opposite side of the key. Sure enough, Gus cuts to the baseline. Dad goes to meet him. No Gus. Gus immediately read what was happening and cut back into the space where Dad normally would have been for a wide open layup. What am I going to do with this guy? And they couldn't do anything, and they couldn't stop him, and Colonel Gray won the championship. So a year later, same thing. Kensington still is a very strong team. Again, they go to the finals. Again, versus Great. Gus is a year younger than Dad. So Gus is still playing. Dad now is a spectator. Kensington's a very strong team, as I said. It's a back and forth game. Dying seconds of the game, Kensington's up by 2. Gray gets the ball to Gus. Gus drives to the net. Kensington knows they have to foul him. They foul him. So he goes to the foul line, 2 shots. Makes both of them. Go to overtime. Overtime is an intense affair, back and forth. Come to the end of overtime, Kensington is up by 2 again. Gus gets the ball again. Goes to the rim again. Again, Kensington knows they have to foul him because he's going to score. So they foul him. Go to the foul line, 2 shots. Not going to make, you can't go 4 for 4 on the line. He's going to miss one. Nope, makes both free throws. Goes to the second overtime. Back and forth, everyone's running on fumes. Back and forth. Again, Kensington is up by 2 at the end of the second overtime. Gus gets the ball, goes to the net. Kensington fouls him. Now they're in bonus, so Gus gets 3 foul shots. 2 to tie, 1 to win. Makes them all. Colonel Gray wins the championship. So that kind of illustrates a lot of things about Gus, his determination and his talent and all of that. So then he started pulling out a few threads of that story. Gus wasn't on the basketball team. Gus was on the hockey team and went to basketball when he wasn't playing hockey. The Colonel Gray sent the basketball bus to the rink to pick Gus up for the final game so he could go and play. This is the guy that goes 7 for 7 from the foul line to win the game in 2 overtime periods. This is the guy that sunk you. The guy's not even on the team. He already played a game of hockey because he was also the best hockey player. He was actually, so how good of a hockey player? Well, I'm glad you asked. He's a pretty good hockey player. Pretty good hockey player, yeah. So, drafted to the NHL, played professional, played high-level junior. Everyone knows of, not the full extent, there's a document, I guess, going around that he wrote himself that fills in a lot of blanks about his hockey career. Very, very impressive. Even when he came home, when the pro career was done, moves back home, he's playing Metro City Rec League, which was a very competitive league at the time. A lot of guys straight out of university, a lot of guys straight out of junior. I remember Gus, I can't remember, he was definitely in his 40s, and I dropped by Upper Prince Street, and he was working harder than usual to get back in shape, whatever year he was in his 40s. And he took me aside and said, Nick, I'm going to win the scoring title this year. And I was like, oh, and he said, yeah, he didn't come out and say, he's like, these guys are half my age, but I can do it. And he did it. He did it. He won in his 40s. So he's playing at that level. And then, but it gets hard to, keep playing hockey at that level. So then he says, well, I always loved tennis. Maybe I'm going to play a little bit more tennis. That's great. You're in your 40s. You're done. You did everything you could. Get some sunshine. Get out some fresh air with your friends and bat the ball around. No. Gus won the Atlantic Championships in tennis. Yeah. So there's that. Okay. So I guess pretty good tennis player too. Okay. It's hard to keep up though tennis, trying to play at that level into your 40s. So then he started golfing a lot more. So he'd say, let me guess, he's a pretty good golfer, was he? Yeah, he's a pretty good golfer. Yeah, shot in the low 70s. Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, I guess that's pretty good. So he does all these things, and to me, so then he say, it's great to be a good athlete. It's important, but not everyone can sign a big pro contract as good as you are. You got to have a plan B. Well, had a pretty good plan B. He became a highly regarded psychiatrist, and he was a doctor, and did pretty good, and no, so it was a pretty good plan B. Well, you know, some people are athletic, and some people have the academic side, but doesn't leave a lot of time for, you know, other things that you might be passionate about. No, he did. He and his best friend wrote an album. Yeah, wrote an album, so he did that. Oh, wow, that's pretty good too. Yeah, he started a band with some other doctors, and he played drums and sang. Oh, boy. If you were writing a story about this guy, you would say, you got to change this Gus Beck character, because no one could really be like this. Wrote a book of poetry. Great, one of the poems on the back of the program there. Did all that. Wow, this guy, pretty amazing, yeah, pretty amazing. Wouldn't have much time. Thought I'd make it a little further through. Wouldn't have much time for your family. No, not that either. He had that. Hockey games, swim meets, theater shows, music recitals, there with a suitcase-sized camcorder on his shoulder. Trying to look through the viewfinder to make sure he got a video. So you can see it real time. In there like a dirty sock, as they say. A few years ago, so the great story to me. I never told Gus this story, but I should have. A few years ago, I don't want to embarrass this person, so I won't use the real name, but it's a close relative of Gus's. Let's call her Zaggy. Zaggy was young. She was getting assessed for school. Zaggy's a very bright child. And I remember I came back to Upper Prince Street, and Jaymin and Jeremy and Will are there, and Donna. We're all buzzed about something. I come in and I say, what's going on? He said, Zaggy got assessed for school. Saying Zaggy's like off the charts. I'm like, yeah, I've met Zaggy, like I'm not surprised, Zaggy's off the charts. They said, no, they're saying like she's brilliant, like she's like really off the charts. I looked at them and I said, yeah, like you're all related to Zaggy. Jaymin and Jeremy and Don and Will, I said, you're all very, very bright people. I said, and Zaggy's we'll call him Zonathan. And Zonathan is very, very bright. How are you surprised? And they said, no, like they're saying like she might be a genius. Like none of maybe we're whatever, but we're not like that. And I looked at them, I said, Gus is a genius. And there was a pause. And then they roared. They roared with laughter. They roared with laughter. And the kid said, Dad? And Donna said, Gus Beck? And I said, yeah, Gus Beck. Gus Beck is a genius. And they said, Nick, maybe to a dim-witted simpleton such as yourself, you might look and say, Gus Beck is a big fancy doctor in the big fancy city of Charlottetown, but Gus Beck is not a genius, and I knew I was right and that they were wrong. I didn't go any further with that conversation. And so I found that quite comical at the time, but I thought about it a lot since, but you know, that to me, not to, you know, put words in Gus' mouth or whatever, for all the resume, for the life that he lived, that would be, you know, his greatest compliment, his greatest accomplishment is that he just Dad to them. Or he was just Gus. He was just the guy that shambled down the stairs in his house coat on Saturday morning. Couldn't really say much until about 10 or 10:30 after 2 or 3 bowls of cereal. Maybe a can of Pepsi. But for all he did, that was all, I mean, all the other stuff I mentioned was all very important. He loved sports, he loved all of it. He loved doing all of it, he was driven to do all of it. But none of it was even a close second to being Dad or being Gus. And that was the greatest thing. That's why he would love not just his family, especially his family, but you know, his book was reflections about relationships, love relationships, all of it. He was truly like special and kind and one of a kind. And like I said, I refer to him as being impossible, but that's kind of a disservice to him because he was possible. We're all here because he was. We're all here because we knew him. And so that's all I have to say about that. I'd like to call up Dr. Ben Spears, who was a colleague and mentor and friend of Gus's, to say a few words.
Yes, I'm Ben Spears. I'm a recently retired psychiatrist and was a colleague of Angus for many years. I didn't meet Angus until he had qualified as a specialist, although I was friends with Mac and Shirley, his parents, for a long time. And I was told by someone of great seniority that when Angus took his specialist exams, he got the highest marks nationally. This was an excellence that he maintained throughout his career. He specialized particularly in the treatment of mood disorders, and it's very interesting, like people with great skills in this field, when he passed away, the family were greeted with many remarks that he had saved people's lives. I don't think that this meant literally that he saved everyone from suicide, but I think it recognizes the importance of this skill, because depression, which is the commonest condition that we treat, is really a death sentence state, and I think people are telling him, or telling the family, that he restored them to a living state. Angus was a colleague for many years. We had a close professional relationship. We weren't personal friends. We didn't go to each other's house. We didn't play golf together. But I was struck by the importance of this, by the shock and grief with which I learned of his passing. I had spoken to him not so long ago, and he told me that he was so happy in his work, he had intended to delay his retirement. Some people had felt that he was entitled to it before this. I did see him in hospital not long before he died, and he was his usual practical and stoical self. When he qualified and came to work here, life was difficult. We were very short of psychiatrists, and we all worked extremely hard. I think to an extent that affected us all. It was principally Angus, myself, and Dr. Blair Hicken. But they were good times, they were happy times, and I think that we learned, and the people that worked with us, that happy employees are good employees, and happy professionals are good professionals. But it was more than just this excellence. Angus never had a harmful word to say anything about anyone senior. We could approach, we could exchange duties, we could get second opinions, which are very important. And he would be quite prepared to tell us, tell me when I got things wrong, and be quite frank about it, and help greatly. But Angus was much more than this. He maintained his excellence from beginning to end. He did a lot of work with the mood disorder clinic at Dalhousie, Dr. Martin Alder, and they worked much more closely than people would recognize. And he did a lot of original work, which was quite important. He produced an absolutely marvelous handout to people with depression that I think is very valuable. And in some ways it's a self-help thing, which is one of the chief ways of helping us through the less severe things. But Angus had no ambitions politically. He had much to teach. He had provincially and nationally, but he didn't turn up in the medical society. He didn't turn up in hospital hierarchy. And I always felt that there was a reason for this. It said that in Tunisia there is a memorial stone to a Roman soldier which said, I, Curtius Maximus, have learned that there are two things in life, that is love and power. And I think that Gus rejected the power, and I always felt that it was because he put his family first and his friends, and that was where he spent his time and energy. If I had to think of one word that described Gus, it would be the word honourable. I think he was a very honourable man. And I think there's of great importance as a psychiatrist. There was a time when psychiatrists were regarded as queasy individuals who fainted at the sight of blood, or philosophers trying to get out of medicine. And there was a time when we were termed alienists, when mental health was based on the institution, the asylum. And asylums were usually characterized by usually having the best collection of wine in the country in the cellars, consumed by the alienists, and extreme privacy and distance. The term round the bend has a very interesting origin. It was felt that people were prepared to pay their taxes to provide hospitals and care to the mentally ill, but it had to stay out of sight. So the institutions themselves were never visible from the highway. There was always a curve, and this is where the term round the bend came from, because you couldn't see it. But as society changed and with greater freedoms for the mentally ill, the responsibilities of psychiatrists became much greater. When to discharge a patient, when to admit a patient, when to apply a compulsory order. And very important things depended on this. And the old view of psychiatrists as fainting at the sight of blood had to change. In fact, it is a specialty which I think at times called for great heroism to make these decisions. I think all of us, when we're tired or fatigued, will take shortcuts. Gus never did. He would always apply himself to every case with extreme fairness and honour. I remember a case of a young man who had been brought up in the country with guns and whose ambitions involved the use of guns and law enforcement, who became very ill. And at times like this, the simplest things were just to take the guns away from them. Everybody was protected and the psychiatrist felt safe. But Gus had a case where he could see that taking the guns away from a person would affect their future life. And he thought, and in my view, in an act of great courage, he left guns with the person, quite rightly. Nothing happened, everything was safe, but it would have been much easier to say, bang, they're gone. But he applied his thought and his energy, and this characterized him completely. But as I say, his application was to his patients. There's much to be said about the love of patients for their doctors. Not much is said about the love of patients by the doctor. And Gus was a great example of this. He worried about his patients. If they didn't show up for an appointment, he would worry, he would chase it up. He cared for them very greatly. And this, of course, took its toll. He avoided politics, and I can assure you that medical politics make what goes on in the legislature look like a vicarage tea party. Stay away from that, and that was to his benefit. I shall miss him very greatly. When I think of his characteristics, beyond the excellence of his academic work, his generosity, his dedication, his loyalty, I think that we could say that taken all in all, this was a man, and taken all in all, this man was a physician.
Thank you, Dr. Spears. Next, we're going to have a performance. Gus's 3 children, Jaymin, Jeremy, and William, and Jonathan, Gus's son-in-law. Jonathan. You were supposed to give away who that was.
So most of my life, I've obviously left the storytelling to the capable hands of Nick. Mine will be short and sweet. We know that Dad loved us. Dad loved music, and Dad loved us doing music. We're doing music for Dad. Yeah.
Hello.
When the rain is blowing in your face and the whole world is on your case, I could offer you a warm embrace to make you feel my love. When the evening shadows and the stars appear, and there's no one there to dry your tears, I could hold you for a million years to make you feel my love. I know you haven't made your mind up yet, but I will never do you wrong. I've known it from the moment that we met. No doubt in my mind where you belong. and on the highway of regret. The winds of change are blowing wild and free. You ain't seen nothing like me yet. I can make you happy, make your dreams come true. Nothing that I wouldn't do. Go to the ends of the earth for you, to make you feel my love, to make you feel my love.
Pretty good, I guess, pretty good. I guess you can just jump up and do that at your dad's celebration lake. Pretty good. Pretty good. Now I'd like to call up Sandra Jay. That's his sister-in-law, for a reflection on the Outlaws, which is what they called their biker gang. They get together.
I'm going to have a word with Sandra calling me up after that beautiful performance. It's really quite unfair. My heart is pounding. The family has asked me to speak today as one of the outlaws. There were three of us, Gus, George Campbell, and me, being married to three siblings who had a bond that developed long before we knew them. Gus, George, and I had developed our own little connection, our own little bond, jokingly offering support to one another. It would be Donna who would say, "I think it's time to get together." And there we would be with great food and conversation that would go on for hours, and I do mean hours. George usually led the conversation with Wayne's encouragement. At one of our last meetings, though, Gus uncharacteristically took the stage and shared some of his hockey experiences. As someone who met Gus later in life, I was amazed. I could not believe his recall of players and of game events, and that he had so many of these experiences before I met him. This was Gus. He had depth. He was deep, we know this, but he had depth. He had such ability. He was not only a doctor who provided such care and concern for his patients, he was an accomplished athlete. A hockey player, a tennis player, a golfer, and gosh, let's throw in horseshoes. And to hear George tell the story of playing against him in high school at 5'8½", he was a great basketball player. He loved sports and knew everything about them. Gus was musical. He loved music. He played the drums, sang, and wrote songs. He was a great dancer. He authored a book of poetry. Gus brought passion and commitment to everything he did, no matter what it was. Singing The Happy Wanderer with George at Christmas, playing the drums, or having a conversation about sports, he was fully engaged. And that included listening, for Gus was a champion listener. When I think of Gus, I think of three things. The first is family. He loved his family. He loved Donna beyond anything, and their devotion and commitment to one another was a beautiful thing. He loved and cared for everyone in his family, and he so enjoyed being together. With Gus, once you were in, as I found out, you were in. Secondly, I think of cards. He loved cards, and he loved the family tournaments of auction. He and his partner, George, were a formidable pair. He and his partner were a formidable pair. The focus, the chirping, the shouting and yelling at a hand well played or a big win. They came, they were game, they enjoyed every hand, sometimes to everyone's annoyance. I must say though, George, in spite of the fancy new trophy you developed, Last year, you and George made a very poor showing at our summer tournament. And I think everyone can back me up on that. Thirdly, when I think of Gus, I think of banana splits. For a man with limited food preferences, he would not touch an onion, for heaven's sakes. How he came to love a concoction of ice cream, bananas, chocolate sauce, strawberries, and pineapple, or caramel sauce is a mystery to me. But he loved banana splits, and when I made them for everyone, he always got the first one. I think a perfect day for Gus would be these three things: family together, a good competitive game of cards on the go, and a banana split in there somewhere. We will have more of those wonderful days, and I know he will be there with us. He will not be out of our minds or out of our hearts. Thank you, Donna, Jaymin, Jeremy, and Willie, for this opportunity to speak. Angus William Beck was such a good man, such an excellent man, and I was blessed, as we all were who are here today, to have had him in our lives. Thank you.
When we would play cards the last number of years, Dad and Gus lost, which was more and more often all the time. Dad would immediately say, well, of course, this was really, we missed some of the terms because of COVID. So they'd say, well, this was, what was that? That was the 2020. So the next big one's 2021, and Gus and I are going to, that's the really important one. And then they would lose the 2020. Well, no, that was fine, because now the 2022, that's the big one. The Christmas one is the big one, not the summer one. It was always the next one. It reminded me of a story once. Dad also told me about Gus and how competitive he was playing sports, and they were talking about badminton. Dad was a really good badminton player. Gus kind of casually said, "Oh, well, I can beat you at badminton." And Dad said, "Well, we'll play sometime." So they played, and 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 they played. And Dad just kept winning. Gus kept saying, "One more, one more, one more." However many games they played, Gus finally won. Gus said, "I knew I'd beat you." So the two of them, that's why they made a good pair in cards in a lot of other ways, because they said, no, the next one's the most important one. The next one. I'd like to call up Maggie for reflections on Baba.
I'm exceedingly fortunate to have had 27 years with all of my grandparents. They have been a part of my life in a rare and special way that I'm eternally grateful for. It's hard to imagine that Baba wasn't Baba until I came along, and that's how I've known him every day of my life. These past weeks I've been looking at pictures of my first years spent living at Upper Prince Street, and it's been hitting me how unique and beautiful of a situation it was to have grandparents at home who were also parents. Will and Jer were still teenagers. I and my father were interwoven into a bright, busy household full of love. My earliest memories are of Upper Prince Street. I remember Baba taking me to swim at the Delta every week, followed by a stop to McDonald's. I was too young to appreciate the full experience of that house, but I was surrounded by people and love, and in my 4-year-old eyes, the size of my family was infinity. When we moved to Montreal, Nana and Baba were never far away, whether by an 11-hour car ride or a flight to Charlottetown with my unaccompanied minor badge. Baba would come every spring break to the Dominican Republic, and we would swim, climb waterfalls, play cards, and laugh. When I was a teenager, getting the family together was always one big adventure, and every generation was just as much a part as the next. From dressing up as they were when they were 16 for my 16th birthday, to battling with marshmallow guns for my 18th, escape rooms, bingo, games of Mafia, trips to Broadway, outdoor laser tag, games and games and games of cards, the list goes on. Together, we were just a group of big kids having a wonderful time together. At my college graduation, my family rented a big house nearby, and my only request was that we stay up until late playing cards. Chris, my husband, was meeting my family for the first time. And instead of staying for dinner, he stayed the whole weekend. We stayed up into the wee hours playing cards, and one more person joined our clan. PEI has remained my home base forever. Even as we moved abroad, I went to college, my parents moved again, and I started my new life in the States. I don't consider myself as having a childhood home. Far too many people and places having shaped my growing up. But coming back to PEI, having Nana and Baba be there no matter what has been one of the strongest constants in my life. I came back here to them to stay during school breaks when I couldn't get to my parents. For holidays, when I got mono in college, to see my cousins when they were born, when my grandmother was sick, and every summer for my whole life. 67 Beech Grove Road, and my grandparents inside it, has been an anchor in my life since they moved in. Baba was a very happy man, but I want to highlight 3 specific types of happiness that I saw as his granddaughter. In the past number of years, as I've been finding my place as an adult in the family, I've often felt a pang of sadness for Baba. At Christmas, there are reliably cashews and after-eights wrapped for him, but often little else. I found myself many a time in a rowdy conversation in the living room with heaps of people, while Baba sat at the dining room table. Did he feel excluded? The sadness did not last very long at all. I would sneak peeks to him when our crew was getting a little boisterous, and he was often sitting at the table away from the action. He had a special look in those moments of being absolutely full, reveling in his family, and I know he is exactly happy with how things are. This past Christmas, after we all went to bed, I went upstairs to get a glass of water, and he was sitting on the couch, looking through our family calendar, listening to his music, with a look of pure contentment. I had a moment of absolute clarity that I was blessed with a grandfather who lived his life exactly as he wanted. So full of love, so fulfilled by his work and family, and I dare say there's nothing about his life that he would have changed. There's the smile he gives me when I ask him to go do something one-on-one. His whole face lights up like I've given him the moon. When I was young, it was going to the movies. He would see any movie with me, without question, and order all of the snacks I could dream up. One year, we bought tickets to some Christmas movie, and immediately after we bought them, I decided I actually wanted to go see Elf instead. He took me into the wrong theater, and we watched Elf, the movie I really wanted to see, and I felt so sneaky. He took me to my first double feature. Nan and he convinced me to go see Mamma Mia after we had already seen a movie with them. Again, I felt really sneaky. It's now one of my favorite movies. He would come with me to see anything, but I did learn a little bit too late after bringing him to see Bridesmaids at the age of 14 that R-rated movies are maybe not best suited to watching with one's grandfather. Recently, to go get ice cream. The Dairy Queen in Charlottetown, Twin Shores, the Frosty Treat. We would drive together in the Civic, and he would sing along to his playlist while drumming on the steering wheel. We would talk about his work, about my school, my future, anything really. The warmth and genuine interest and absolute care he had for me was unending. This past summer, when I was applying for jobs, it was a taboo topic for everyone. No one was allowed to ask me about it. I was very stressed. He's the first family member I really talked it through with on our drive to go get ice cream. In college, I sent him some things I wrote for different classes, and I got an email out of the blue a few months later. Hi Max, I was just doing some writing and I was reminded how much I enjoyed your papers. Actually, I just wanted an excuse to write you and tell you I love you. That's it. The final type of happy Baba that I want to speak on is the way he looks when he talks about Nan. He's utterly devoted to her, and there is a reverence in his love that is so deep that has set the very foundation for the rest of our family. My parents, Jaymin, Christine, and the girls, my close relationship with Will, and my own marriage. Although I was not able to be there, I believe with a fair amount of certainty that the 50th wedding anniversary party they had was one of the happiest days of his life. We had a wonderful conversation about how meaningful it was to him. There's a look on his face he gets when talking about Nan, different from the twinkle when I want to hang out with just him, different from the deep content smile he has when surrounded by family. It is a look of pure love, and I have seen it thousands of times. Although much of my time in PEI and with my grandparents involves being with a larger group, my whole life, we have always had evenings together, the three of us. We sit in the living room, me in the best spot in the armchair, Nan leaning back on the couch, her legs spread out long onto Baba's lap, where he sits at the far end, the TV at an unfortunate angle, while he rubs her feet, and everything feels perfect. The first time I heard the term rock referring to a person, it was Baba talking about Nana. I didn't really understand what it meant. As I've grown up, I've understood it deeply in different relationships, including in my own marriage, where my husband is certainly my rock. Baba was the rock of our family, ever steady, always there, the foundation of a family filled with so much love. I was at a wedding last weekend, and they had a reading, the same one that I read at Christine's wedding. While at this wedding, I called Baba and spoke to him after his stroke and heard him clearly say, I love you, for the last time. The reading made me think of him. 1 Corinthians chapter 13. If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all that I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Baba was love. He was patient, he was kind, he did not boast, he was not proud. He always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. I thank him for the gifts that he gave to our family, most of all, the complete, steadfast love that made us who we are. I love you.
And I'd like to call up the BEX'S, an X and an apostrophe S. Made very clear that I have to make sure that that's how it gets announced. So if you want to come on up, we're going to do
I just want to say one thing about this name, which will take us deep into our ancestry. On my grandparents' cottage, there was the sign BEX'S, B-E-X, and I always remembered that. That's why we're the BEX'S. And that's in honor of our father and grandmother, who we love dearly.
Just before I begin, I just wanted to share a little thought. For the past 25 years or so, members of the R.W. Beck clan have been congregating down on the Montague River, a place that's near and dear to all our hearts. And we gather every year there for the Beck party. And it's usually the middle of the summer, and it's one of the highlights of the Beck party is always the sing-song around the campfire. And although the personnel sort of changed from year to year, there was a few constants that were always there. And Cousin Rob, he was definitely the showstopper. For those of you that had the pleasure of seeing his performances. And he was joined by Brother Jock, and they were the lead guitarists for the sing-songs. Brother Gus, he was the main percussionist. And he started off with his snare drum. He didn't like that because that was a little too tinny. He had his soft brushes and he was playing. So he gave all the backbeat to all the songs. So those are kind of the main staples here. And it's very special here today because we have such a close-knit relationship with our first cousins who we don't really consider like first cousins. They're more like brothers and sisters. And we've always felt that way about them, and it's been special here to have Jock and Robbie's brother and sister Cammie to my right. Jock's daughters, Amy and Rachel over here, Amy on the guitar. And Jock's other daughter, Christy, would have been here today, except she fell ill last night and couldn't be with us. But we know she's tuning in on live here today. And Jaymin, being the trooper that she is, texted me this morning and said, Norman, I'll fill in. So Jaymin took charge, kind of like Jaymin likes to do, right? And she said, we're going to get this done. So with very little preparation, she and I came in and kind of pulled it together here this morning. So thank you, Jaymin, for doing that. So when we were playing the sing-songs, like I went back and Gus talked about the snare drum. And he had the snare drum, but he didn't like that. So about 15 years ago, he got his cajon. And that was his pride and joy in sing-songs. He loved it. And here we go. And he was later joined by Colum on his John Bay, and more recently, Gordy got his own cajon as well. But today is a little bit extra special because the guitar that Amy's going to be playing is actually Jock's. And Gordy substituted out his own cajon for Gus's cajon. So although they're not with us here physically, they are definitely here with us materially and certainly spiritually, and that's really a great source of comfort. I'm not really good at this either. My mother said, you know, poor Norm, it's too bad his bladder is located next to his tear ducts. I'm doing actually really good. For those of you who know me, I'm doing really good here. So come to this one. But we love singing various songs, and we love blue rodeo songs in particular. And yeah, they're rodeo fans. And this song really got us juiced up, and we always had a great time playing it, and that's why we chose it for today. But when it comes to musical styles in the Beck clan, there's quite a distinction. You have the Ralph Becks, right? And beautiful melodies, crazy good harmonies, almost flawless perfection and execution in their delivery. And I would say even angelic. They are that good. Matt Becks? Not so much. But I'll tell you this, Well, we may lack in finesse and prowess, musical finesse and prowess. We certainly make up for in boundless energy and enthusiasm and unbridled passion.
And volume.
Yes, and volume, yeah, totally. So actually, the version we're going to play here today is a lot tamer than what we would normally play around the sing songs for your benefit. But we do want this to be a sing-along, and the chorus is very simple. Hopefully we're going to get it pulled up here together, and so we would ask that you join in on the Central Christian Church Choir. You guys can join in on the verses and sing with us as well too. Because, you know, when Gus played around the campfire, he would sit on the cajon. And if he was into a song, what he'd do is he'd kind of tilt his head back like this. He'd be on the cajon, and the head would be up like this because he was so into the song. It's almost like he was singing to the heavens. So if you want to unleash your inner Gus here today, please do so, because you know what? I think my brother would like that. So I hope you enjoy it. Strange and beautiful are the stars tonight that dance around your head. In your eyes I see that perfect word. I hope that doesn't sound too weird. And I want all the world to know your love's all I need, all that I need. And if we're lost, we are lost together. In the silence of this whispered night, listen only to your breath. in a second of a shooting star. Somehow it all makes sense. And I want all the world to know that your love's all I need, all that I need.
Thanks to the BEX'S. Wonderful. Gus, the 50th anniversary last summer. That song was played, and Gus loves that song. Loves a lot of the songs, but as the night went on, like a few deep cuts came out. I can't remember what it was. I think Norma pulled out a pretty deep Blue Rodeo cut. And it was kind of like a little bit like downbeat, mournful, and like after every song, like Gus still just loved it all. Gus sitting there smiling, the song comes to mind, he goes, "What song was that, Norman?" Norman said whatever the song was. Gus says, "Oh, maybe we won't play that one at the get-togethers." Just like what the day he told me that the T-shirt made me look worse. Gus was like, "You know what? I mean, this is what it is, and I think I should say it. And here it is." I'm gonna call Gordy back up for Brotherhood.
Thanks for asking up, Donna. Really appreciate it. So we heard all about how good Gus was at everything. Gus sucked. He really sucked at playing hearts. And it only took me and my brothers about 55 or 60 years to figure this out. For the last number of years, the four of us would be getting together playing hearts. Gus never, ever, he might want one. He really wasn't very good at playing hearts. When you hear all the accolades that go towards him, we finally found his weakness. He was such a superb athlete. It really was incredible how good he was at everything. He won table tennis. He won an island championship, basketball, hockey, just everything he put his hand on. He was a good swimmer, great basketball player, good ball player too, a baseball player. He was a good shortstop. And he wasn't half bad at hockey. He was an absolute magician with the puck. And those of us who had the chance to see him, witness his brilliance, it was so much fun watching him play hockey. I don't think I've ever seen a hockey player I love to watch more. And luckily I got to see a lot of his games. And he was such a strength with those strong Islanders teams. He really was one of the biggest cogs in those teams that played so well and had so many top-level players that went on to play in the NHL. And he was no fun to play with in the rink. He was a pain in the ass. He didn't do much for your confidence. You know, and he pursued his dream. He wanted to be an NHL player. And I really think that if he had come along at a different time, that he probably would have been. And I'm sure, you know, his ability for him to be playing at this time in hockey, you don't need to be 6'4" and a tough goon and that sort of thing. He came along at a time where his size and that sort of thing worked against him. But as I had in my note here, and as Nick alluded to, he had a good plan B. Because of his brilliance, he was able to say, okay, I'm probably not going to make it in the NHL. He was so close, played some exhibition games, had a chance to go up and play a couple of regular season games, but if you read his little biography, it's an interesting story that he didn't well. So the NHL's loss was Madison and PEI's game. You know, Gus was 2 years older than me, but he was 2 years behind me in medical school. And so we got to go through medical school together, and we got to work together for the last 40, 45 years. And that really put me in a unique position. I got to see a true professional. I got to talk with him a lot about medicine, talk about all the things that we physicians talk about and go on about. But I think I was in an especially good position because so many of his patients would come into emergency and I'd get to see them. And to a T, every patient of his that came in would say how much they loved and respected Gus and how good he was to them and how he cared for them. And he did do that. He respected his patients. He wanted to help them, and he was good at helping them. And so many people were helped by him. And it's not beyond the pale what Ben said. He did save many lives because of his care and compassion and because of his knowledge. You know, he really was a great physician. He kept up to date on everything. He was easy to talk to. He was great with his staff. They all loved working with him. And he practiced medicine the way medicine should be practiced, in a caring and kind fashion. You know, we were so lucky in our family to have parents that introduced us to a lot of things. They showed us how to be good citizens. They showed us how to love our wives and our marriage. And we learned a lot from them. Gus learned, and I think we've all learned that. But Gus also knew the value of family and the value of kinship and brotherhood. And I'd just like to read one of his poems that's in the Reflections book. It's called 5 Brothers. So it goes like this. We were 5 in the days of a youth well spent. It seemed like a normal number then. We were and are one of the Beck brothers. All different, but not really that much. All similar, but quite unique. All handsome. Or so our grandmothers said. All divided, fighting the rivalries of childhood, but all united when it matters most. We were one when we were at the top of the stairs waiting to see if Santa came. We were one when the victim of Lake Perthes disease threw away his crutches. We were one after endless days playing in the backyard rink Dad so beautifully built. We were one on hockey rinks as fans cheered us on despite our shortcomings. We were one when we watched the glory of Canada's hockey team in 1972 and 2002, but we were never one when it came to the Blackhawks or Red Wings beating the Canadiens. We were one when our parents were ill. And we were one as we stood in silence beside the graves of our beloved grandparents. Each one of us has a path and a journey. We have been strong enough to go our separate ways, yet smart enough to never let the bonds grow too thin. We have all flown from the nest, but the older we get, the more we see the similar stars that marked out our beginnings. Our father knew his 5 sons had picked up on his many talents. And in worship of the Lord and Savior, we 5 brothers have bowed our heads as one, as communion was passed, and our mother played the organ, soft in the background. He was so introspective, Gus. He just, the poems that he wrote and the sayings that he had. But I think the most important thing is that he understood the value of love and family. Donna, he absolutely idolized you from day one. 52, 55 years ago. He always did. You've been his rock, his mainstay. He could never, ever, ever have accomplished all he did as a physician, as a person, as an athlete, without your support. You made the man. We brothers forever in your debt and gratitude for the way you treated him and loved him. You were there through many difficult times, and you stayed and were faithful and strong. Thank you so much. We'll all miss him so much. He was a great, great guy. I know he was my hero, no question.
Right. The hits just keep on coming. And here next, Reflection of Dad from Jaymin.
I'm standing up here today on behalf of Mom and my brothers and our families to talk about Dad. I wish I wasn't going last after all the wonderful things we've heard. I'm going to try to do this with as few tears as possible. I can't think of Dad without thinking of the impact that he had on so many lives. Some of you knew him as a caring colleague. There are so many medical staff who say that they always felt better after an encounter with him because of his kind and gentle way. The past 30 years at the McGill Community Mental Health Center were a tribute to his collaborative nature, and along with the nurses and admin assistants there, they built up a community of care that benefited so many. I know that they will finally chuckle over his peanut butter and bread for lunch, and how it was a special day when he remembered to take a banana to complete the sandwich. There was a special stash of Pepsis and Joe Louis that he would have picked up from Bright Grocer, and photos of his family all around his office. He was a gracious team player with so many at McGill Center, and we know how much you will miss him all. Some of you knew Dad as an honorable psychiatrist. In Dad's practice of 40 years, he treated over 6,000 patients. In the last 2 years, he was slowly closing down his practice. He did it with thoughtfulness and with the well-being of each and every individual under his care. As he went down from 600 patients to 226, he would let each of them know that if they needed him, he would be there, and he gave them permission to reach out. We figured that many patients would arrive to appointments and wonder, what brightly colored Tommy Bahama sweatshirt might he be wearing today? The number of times people have come up to us over the last number of weeks, and especially yesterday at the wake, and said that he quite literally saved their life, and that they would not be standing before me if it wasn't because of him, was astounding. For all of the people who were saved or impacted by his care and concern, there was also the additional ripple effect on the lives of the people in their inner circle. The butterfly effect of positivity and love is endless, and his legacy will extend beyond all of us in this room because of his good deeds and the exemplary care he gave to his patients. For those patients who knew him as a psychiatrist and healthcare provider, we know how grateful you are for the role he played in your health and well-being. Some of you knew Dad as a slick hockey player, number 12 in a lot of cases. His career was so full. The stories that he would tell about his own brothers and the likes of Dave, Colin, Alan, and Hill, amongst so many others, his insane ability to remember every detail about each goal was astounding. He could list names and stats, and each player that was on the ice when a particular play went down. He was a natural athlete and so fast in those skates, even though he's only 5'8.5". The pride that he felt when Hilliard took him under his wing, and the gratitude he had for Hill choosing him as a centerman back in Junior A, is something that he commented on frequently. We know many of you in the room have hockey stories about him from the backyard rink in Ambrose, or the Junior A's, or the Rec League. There was hockey all around, and we know you will cherish all those memories from the good old days. Some of you knew Dad as a loyal friend. Maybe, like Bob, a best friend. You've played card games with him, golf games, and had sing-songs together. Some of you had traveled with him, and like Kevy says, the day would be half over before Gus was up and having his 2 bowls of cereal. Many of you have probably shared meals and maybe shook your head in bewilderment as he ordered and ate the same meal again. There's no need to change when you already know what you like, is there? Many of you remember those childhood days around the hood and all the big families hanging out together. Many of you saw him recently at his and Mom's 50th anniversary party, which he called one of the greatest days of his life. To his friends, I know you will miss him, and you will toast a Pepsi in his honor. Some of you knew him as Uncle Gus. He watched you play sports, he came to your music performances, he asked after your kids, he always gave you the biggest and hardest hugs. You loved playing cards with him, you loved watching him sing. You loved watching him sing his heart out while drumming on the steering wheel or dashboard. And you loved being part of the sing-songs, where he danced and duetted with Uncle George or the BEX'S around the campfire. His unconditional love and support for each of his nieces and nephews will not soon be forgotten. Some of you knew him as a brother or cousin, and you have stories of playing hockey in the rink that Granddad built, summer days on the Nancy Ann, swimming across the Montague River, roughhousing and getting in trouble from time to time. You probably have memories of discussing the current tennis open or basketball playoffs, golf stats, or the scores of the Habs, the Bruins, the Blackhawks, or those Red Wing games. You were probably in awe of his ability to sleep in, recall facts about everyone important in your life. I swear he's the only one who can name like all of the cousins, all of them, and their kids. It was really phenomenal. I know you'll miss the camaraderie that he nurtured. And you would most certainly remember him banging away in his cajon and singing at the top of his lungs of family sing-songs. He loved each and every one of you. Some of you knew Dad as a brother-in-law who welcomed you into the family with open arms. He let you know that your presence in the group now made our family better. You raised your kids together, trips to Rainbow Valley, Christmas Eve with the whole family, apple picking, hockey and baseball trips, swim meets, barbecues, and sing-songs. There's always singing. He helped to create bonds between all members of the family, and he created traditions with us that we all still carry on today. To those in-laws, we know that it now may mean that you have lost a card partner, or a brother-in-law who checks in on you each month, or someone who will eat your banana split down to the last drop. You each had something special that you shared with him, and we know you will feel Dad's loss greatly. 4 very special girls, Maggie, and Gabby, and Alex, Julianne, knew him as Baba, and Chris as Baba-in-law. As a kid, Maggie remembers learning how to swim with him and then go to McDonald's afterwards, like she said. He taught her to skate in the backyard rink at 114, and the trips that they went on together throughout her childhood and into adulthood. Meeting Chris at her graduation was a moment of happiness for him, and he knew that she had found her life partner, and that brought him such joy. The cottage days we all spent playing cards together were some of the best. The little girls fondly remember sneaking Baba drinks. The Sundays that he picked up for them at each sleepover, the card games they played, and the fun-filled days at the cottage in Darnley. They will remember that even in his final days, he found the strength to say, "I love you," to each of them. His chocolate fudge will always be a sweet memory, and we know that they will never forget Baba. Jonathan and Christine had the sincere honor of knowing him as a father-in-law, a role that he absolutely loved. He took each of you into the fold with a huge hard hug and offered such kindness, generosity, and interest in who each of you were and what you loved to do. He supported you as parents by respecting how you wanted to do it and not butting in. He was good to just go with the flow. Christine, I know he would have been so proud of the half marathon that you ran in his honor on the weekend, and that he will continue to be proud of how you and Jeremy raised your sweet girls. For John, I know he was so proud of the trips you would always plan for us, and he would hope to be on the sailboat again with you. And I know he will miss the golf games you shared and sneaking off to the Frosty treat when one of you scored a birdie. One person knows him as a husband who adored her his entire life. Mom had the most loyal, dedicated, selfless, and hardworking partner who gave her everything she needed and more. Dad provided her with a life that allowed her to thrive and to be her best self. For over 50 years. He could be stubborn and a little slow-moving by times, as he was known to say, "Donna, just a quick shower," as she was trying to get him out the door. But he was a supportive partner who was always by her side. He loved how busy she was and the circle of friends that she created, and he would encourage her to do anything that made her happy. She was, and always will be, his shining star. There are 3 of us who have had his unconditional love as a father. And Jeremy, Will, and I feel as though we hit the jackpot in life. As his only daughter, and yes, I could do no wrong in his eyes, I have nothing but the fondest memories and the feeling of his unconditional love and support. And I know that my brothers feel the same way. I don't know many people out there who do not hold something against their parents, who we honestly don't. There's nothing that we wish he would have apologized for or any lingering bad vibes. We all feel completely content with where our relationships was when he passed. That's a gift. During these last 3 weeks especially, he made us stronger. He pulled us together, and he made us appreciate all the moments in life with a fierceness that we hadn't before. I will finish with words from Will about our final moments together. My father died at 5:04 a.m. on May 8th, 2024. We were all together, the 5 of us. We sang to him and told stories and laughed and cried. We told him that it was okay, that he could go, that he did everything he wanted to do with his life, that he was brave all the way till the end, that he was generous in all the ways possible, with his patients, with his children and grandchildren, and with his wife, and so many others who shared stories with us these past 19 days. We told him that he provided us with an amazing life, that we love him so much, that we are surrounded by love, that we will hold each other up after he goes. And we did. And we will, the 4 of us. We know each of you are at your own place in your journey for this loss, and we hope you find solace and peace. Thank you.
Thanks, Jaymin. I'd like to call Gus's best friend, Doyle, up to perform one of his favorite songs. Come on up.
Everything's been said about Gus, and I couldn't agree more with every bit of it. He's been my buddy for just over 60 years, and I just put him in my pocket to help me get through this, so we're gonna get through it. The end is near, and so I face the final curtain. My friends, I'll state it clear, I'll state my case, of which I'm certain. I've lived a life that's full, I've traveled each and every highway, and more, much more than this
I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. I did what I had to do. I saw it through without exception. I planned each shattered course, each careful step along the byway, and more, much more than this, I did it my way. Oh yes, there were times, I'm sure you knew, when I bit off more than I could chew. But through it all, when there was doubt, I ate it up and spit it out. I faced it all, and I stood tall, and did it my way. I've loved, I've laughed, I've cried, I've had my fill, my share of losing. And now, as tears subside, I find it all so amusing to think I did all that. And may I say, not in a shy way, oh no, not me, I did it my way. For what is a man, what has he got, if not himself, then he has not to say the words he truly feels, and not the words of one who knew. The record shows I took the blow and did it my way. The record shows I took the blow and did it my way.
Thanks, Bob. Just realized I didn't do one of the only jobs I was supposed to do today, which was mention the Comfort and Care Fund, which is set up in Gus's name. Information of that are on the Belvedere website. You can find the link to that and some more information on it. We're going to wrap up here. There's going to be an interment ceremony for the family and close friends following the celebration. Just to wrap up, just want to say thank you to everyone for sharing your words and music today. And Gus for sure would have loved this. I think everyone knows that. And I just went in by saying that last time I saw Gus, I said that he did a good job. There's an awful lot of people, an awful lot better off because of him, and I'm one of them. There's an awful lot of people who are going to miss him, and I'm one of them too. Rest easy, old boy. You certainly earned it. We all love you very much.